I bought the smallest and cheapest camera that I could find. It even has a screen on the back. Welcome to the bright side. This is the Vivitar Keychain digital camera, and I found this at my local Walmart for about $11. I was over there picking up some SD cards for a couple of my cameras, and I saw this right next to them on the shelf, and for $11, I just did an impulse buy. I've seen a couple of these super cheap small cameras online, but I haven't actually seen one in person, and I was definitely intrigued by this one specifically because I just like the look of it. It caught my attention because it looks eerily similar to the Camp Snap Pro, which I love the look of the Pro, so having a little mini-me I thought would be pretty cool. It sports a 14 megapixel sensor, a micro SD card slot on the side. On the back, it actually has a screen, which is insane. This little guy even shoots 1080 video, which that's what the packaging said anyway. In order to shoot that, you actually have to have a micro SD card in the slot, which I do not have in it, so I couldn't test that part out. But for photos, this thing actually has an internal storage capacity. It'll store up to 100 photos internally, so you don't even have to install a card if you don't want to. Those stats sound pretty amazing on paper, but is this really a pretty decent camera? Or is it just a gimmick? Let's start with the good about this little camera, because there are actually a couple of things that I really like. First thing, the screen on the back is actually really bright, and even in direct sunlight, you don't lose any quality, you don't get any glare. You see the picture pretty perfectly. It's not a glossy screen, it kind of has like a little matte finish to it, which I think is what helps not create a glare in direct sunlight or shooting outdoors. And that's something that I might actually like to see on some mirrorless cameras. Having a matte finish instead of a glossy one on our camera monitors, that right there would probably help deviate the glare issue with shooting outdoors. Second, which I said already, was the overall looks of this camera. It really does look like a mini-me version of the Camp Snap Pro, and I really like that about it. I love the overall vintage style of this with the black band all the way around and the fake metal finish on the tops and bottoms. And these two sitting on the shelf right next to each other, I kind of just get a kick out of it. The third and probably final thing that I actually like about this camera is the internal storage. Like I mentioned, this will hold up to 100 photos just internally. No extra card needed if you don't want. You can shoot photos and keep them right out of the box. Those are pretty much the only nice things I have to say about this camera. And like my grandma said, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. Nah, the first negative thing, yes, it's pretty cool with how tiny this camera actually is, but it's so tiny that when you go to take a picture, the camera almost always moves. I highly doubt that this camera has IBIS, so pretty much every photo that you take is going to be blurry. And when you do take a picture, there's no indicator telling you that you actually did. The screen doesn't freeze for a second, there's no light that lights up, there's no shutter sound. Really, you're just hitting a button and hoping that it takes something. The build quality of this is definitely $10 worth. There are gaps all the way around the seam. It creaks and pops whenever you're just handling this camera. And I don't really see this surviving an entire day with a toddler using it. But hey, it has a 14 megapixel sensor with HD capabilities. So it's gotta take pretty decent photos, right? That's what I originally thought until I started taking photos and reviewing them afterwards.
Huh?
No! God, please, no!
The quality is worse than most webcams that people were using on YouTube in 2005. The whites and highlights are just way too blown out, and the shadows and darks are just a black void like My Chemical Romance in 2006. It would be nearly impossible to get a perfectly exposed photo out of this camera. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly sure that the sensor in this camera is the same exact sensor that every single cheap online camera uses. You know those surprisingly cheap cameras off of like Temu and sometimes even Amazon that they're like 20, 30 bucks? And you're like, wow, it shoots HD. It does all these cool things. Let me get this camera. Then you take it, get some photos with it, and they're all dog turds. All those bad cameras, I'm pretty sure, just use the same exact sensor. They just package them inside different bodies, basically reskins of the same thing. So this camera is obviously not good. Like, it takes horrible pictures. But I think there may be something to this. Even though this camera and that sensor is just terrible, it still kind of has some character to it. Like, if you're nostalgic for, like, say, your first phone that you had, probably most of us, it was a Razr phone or a LG Chocolate. The cameras on those phones were absolutely horrible. And the quality of those pictures that we all took and uploaded to MySpace back in the day thinking we were hot stuff really isn't all that different than this camera. Our cameras that we use now are all pretty much sterilized, all with extreme clarity. But with that, you also lose character and a sense of charm in your photos. This, of course, is the extreme opposite of that. But if you grew up in a time where you were stuck using a crap camera on a crap phone, then these cameras may actually hit a nostalgic spot in your feels. These are just gimmick cameras. There's no hiding that. I would never recommend this camera to anyone who's remotely into photography. But since it's only $10, if you want to get this just so you can laugh about it with your friends or your kids, reminiscing about how bad cameras used to be, then this camera may actually belong as maybe a gag gift or a stocking stuffer. Something super cheap, actually looks kind of cool, but everyone can just laugh at it. 100% I'm never going to use this camera ever again though. The thing just sucks, but it's actually kind of cool though. Update, I just accidentally dropped this camera and surprisingly it didn't split in two. At least I'll give it that. Thank you all very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Almost to 1,000, baby. Also, comment down below. Have you thought about or almost bought one of these cheap crap cameras? Don't lie. I bet you have. Be good to each other. And until next time, deuces everybody.